The Department of Justice appears to be focusing its January 6th investigation on former President Donald Trump's actions in the days leading up to January 6th. In recent weeks, two top aides to former Vice President Mike Pence have been questioned before a grand jury. Mark Short and Greg Jacob were reportedly asked about Mr. Trump and his allies' efforts to use fake electors to overturn the results of the 2020 election, and the former president's pressure on Pence to comply with his scheme. For more on all of this, let's bring in James Trusty. He's a former federal prosecutor for the Department of Justice. Just to note, James has been retained by former President Trump in a defamation suit against CNN. So you see a conflict between some of the indictments that have already been filed in the most serious cases, seditious conspiracy, and possible charges against the former president.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's paragraph 59, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it's got this very specific language about how President Trump is not doing anything. It was essentially the lamenting of these guys that they weren't getting any sort of buy-in for a conspiracy with the president. That struck me as a very big exculpatory disclosure to put in that indictment, and it would certainly be a disclosure for any other prosecution that was attempted on the president for January 6th. So again, there's a lot that's behind the scenes in terms of grand jury work. The Department of Justice seems to be putting almost unlimited resources into exploring these possibilities, and we don't know what they have in the grand jury, what they have that they've gotten from the January 6th committee, kind of behind closed doors rather than out there on the televised production. So, yeah, it's a dangerous area to make predictions. Whether or not there's criminality, I think they certainly are looking hard and trying hard to come up with a justification for charging them.
So to take it one step further, we're about 4 months out from the midterm elections. Do you see the Justice Department bringing criminal charges for January 6th before November?
Well, you know, the Attorney General recently reminded everyone that they have this longstanding policy of avoiding charging decisions that could interfere with elections. Well, two problems. Number one, we're almost on an endless election cycle, so I don't know really when one campaign begins and another one ends. But if that was in the context of Hunter Biden, which it seemed to be, it seemed like kind of a false promise or a false concern because Joe Biden is not literally on the slate for the midterm. So I think the same could hold true with President Trump, that if he's not literally on the slate, on the upcoming election, then there's no sort of policy reason to forestall it or to accelerate it. It should just run its natural course.
So on top of these missing Secret Service text messages, we're now learning that there were also missing texts from Department of Homeland Security officials from around January 6th. As a professional investigator, what does that tell you?
Well, you know, the initial leap is usually to see criminality or conspiratorial activity, or to say there's got to be something, nefarious going on here. But I was around federal government long enough to know that sometimes big, dumb government is actually the answer. So they may have made arrangements to have migrations to the cloud or do sorts of technical exercises with one hand not knowing what the other hand was doing. So I'm sure there'll be some pointed questions to Secret Service and to DHS about how such important or potentially important information could disappear. And maybe there's something nefarious, but I don't leap to that conclusion because there's an awful lot of moments of negligence rather than intentional acts when you come to the federal government.
Also this week, senior Senate Republicans said that multiple highly credible whistleblowers have come forward alleging that there's been a broad effort to downplay information, negative information about President Biden's son by the FBI and the Justice Department. What does this mean for the U.S. Attorney's investigation in Delaware?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, there's a couple things I thought were really interesting, and that's kind of the second part. The first part is the letter starts off with Senator Grassley complaining that he had initially sent an earlier letter about politicized behavior by the FBI assistant special agent in charge in Washington, D.C. So he kind of bridged the two issues, saying, I've already complained about highly political behavior within D.C. Washington field office leadership, and now we have these other issues about literally sabotaging the Delaware case. And that's what you have to understand. If an agent or an analyst sends something to the court file or to the envelope relating to the investigative file, I should say, that is something that's going to stick with the case. And so if you send false information that, hey, everything you're looking at is Russian disinformation, you've created a paper trail that's very harmful. The investigators may not fall off the track. They may not believe in that information that comes, or at least they may be able to dismiss it eventually, but you've created something that sticks with that case. So if you do ever charge Hunter Biden or anyone else in the Biden family, that communication becomes Brady material, becomes exculpatory material that the prosecutor has to turn over. And that can be the difference between an airtight case and a case that has reasonable doubt. So don't underestimate the importance of kind of intentional sabotage within the FBI. Now, as the U.S. Attorney's Office as a whole, thankfully, they've been relatively quiet. But in recent weeks, we started hearing things we can't tell where they're coming from. The concern I have is that you have an attorney general who's been very political, who is overseeing, by definition, an investigation into at least the president's son. And so when you look at some of the communications that have come out recently, some of the leaks, maybe they're defense attorneys, maybe they're law enforcement, they all suggest a picture of sympathy, of Hunter Biden had a raging addiction, and maybe that's the real problem here. And also a nature of a silo, of basically saying, we're looking at Hunter Biden for things like taxes and for a gun charge, and it would be a very small gun charge, by the way. None of that should take 4 years to pull together. But it sounds, by definition, at least in the leaks so far, that they're looking for an out. That's a very narrow, limited focus, non-international, frankly, type of action. And you never hear the word conspiracy. So I think we could be looking at a very soft plea and a soft landing for Hunter Biden in the near future. And I'm not sure that's where the evidence is, but that's what the smoke signals seem to be to me.
Well, we'll put the leaks to one side because we want to stick to the facts as we understand them. So given these allegations that the FBI and Justice Department officials were involved or allegedly involved in a scheme to downplay this negative information about the president's son, Hunter Biden, do you think we've crossed the threshold for the appointment of a special counsel?
Well, perhaps on the leaks, it's, on the disinformation campaign, that could be worthy of something, beyond an inspector general. That is something that's worth a look. The problem with special counsel, frankly, if you talk about the way the statute reads now, is you're still answering to the attorney general. And so they're not the old school independent counsel. And so what you're looking at if you appoint a special counsel to the Hunter Biden probe now is probably 2 more years of delay. And so I don't know what the ethics are going to be in terms of what the FBI is doing, what the U.S. Attorney's Office is doing up in Delaware. But the thought of basically hitting a reset button now and waiting for a year or two for special counsel to get up to speed is not particularly appealing to me. Now, going back to what the FBI did in the Washington field office, at least according to Grassley's letter, that's the kind of thing that needs to look. I think the culture of the politicized leadership of the FBI, starting with Jim Comey, and not necessarily wiped out by Chris Wray, who straddled both administrations here, that's a problem that needs looking at. It's not the rank and file; it's the guys on the floors of the headquarters that seem to think it's okay to be very political in their outlook, and that's very damaging for what was a very esteemed law enforcement agency.
Jim Trusty, thank you.
Sure, thank you.